If this message found you, you have reached the tipping point. If you've read Malcolm Gladwell's book, you know what I'm talking about. Basically, it's this theory of like, how much do you need to pump into something to push it over the edge to become a viral or popular trendy thing. This time that we're in, whenever you find this message, but just so you know, I'm filming this on August 18th, 2026. We're right in between eclipses, and it feels like there's a lot of energy that's been harnessed this whole summer. And we're now at this moment where we're either going to push it to the limit or we're just going to let it go. And it's up to you to decide where you need to make those decisions, because it's honestly a little bit of both. I'm getting the energy of the 10 of Wands, and that there are certain things you cannot continue to hold on to if you are going to have enough resources to pour into something to tip it over that edge. And I feel like a lot of this might be performance wound based. So like anything that requires you to perform a version of yourself, any place, or I don't know, just any relationships in which you feel like you can't just fully say what's on your heart and mind without having some sort of severe misalignment, kind of karmic smackdown kind of moment. I feel like you've just realized that there's boundaries you have to set with those situations. It's not that you can never, like, you know, it's not a cutting cord energy. It's very much a setting boundaries energy. I feel like that's a more evolved version of things, because we've realized that it's not all bad either. There are certain things, there's certain reasons why we've been attracted to these people or places, right? And so in that, maybe there's a lesson or there's a treasure that we need to safeguard and take with us onto this next thing that we're going full throttle with. I feel like you've been in a time in which maybe you've been slowed down a little bit, and that might feel a little unnatural for you because you are a high achiever and you do like to perform. But what I feel God has been doing in your life has been taking some of the burden off of you. Like, hey, I know that you're really good at this, and if you wanted to do it, you could absolutely do it, but I know you would be unhappy if you went down this path because you've done something similar before. So there's this feeling of divine intervention right now where you might be slowed down, you might feel like you're being held back, you might feel like, what is next? Because I don't feel like I fully or have arrived yet, but I do have this sense that I am meant to arrive somewhere, and that place that I arrive at is highly fated and destined for me to go to. So there's this interesting dance right now of both fate and action. And I feel like there's been this stage or this platform that has been prepared for you because you have a message. You have something that's meant to be witnessed by a lot of people. And the only way to get there is to keep creating. In this slowdown energy, I think some of you guys are expecting that something is just magically going to appear and happen. And to be quite honest, it's eclipse season, so that's very likely. But it might not be what you think, meaning that it might just be the beginning. And that's oftentimes what it is with eclipses, is that it's a time of both strong beginnings and strong endings. And so I feel like the more that you're comfortable with closing out certain chapters and being like, I'm not going to show up like that anymore. I'm not going to show up in this environment with these expectations, and I'm not going to get into it anymore over there because it's just going to create a big tangled knot. And I'm working on unraveling right now. That unraveled feeling can feel really unsettling, but I feel like as we've gone through these past few months, we've realized that the more we unravel, the more free we feel. And so there's this kind of pivot that's happening right now where it's like, if I am to reach the tipping point, I have to keep going. And I might not know what the next step after this step in front of me is going to look like, but that's besides the point. What's in front of me is clear. And so there's been a lot of foggy energy, I feel like, in the past 2 years with the eclipses in Pisces. The first full moon eclipse that we had in Pisces was in September of 2024. Then we had another one in September of 2025. And our last one is coming up in just a few weeks on August 28th, 2026. So what does this mean, right? This Pisces energy can be a lot of smoke and mirrors. It could be a lot of foreshadowing going on without actually seeing tangible evidence. And that can be really confusing because it's like, I feel like I'm on the right track, or I feel like something's happening. I feel like this connection is significant. I feel like there's something more that I'm not seeing here, but I'm being asked to just trust it and figure out my way forward, even without being able to really see the path clearly. So because this is the last eclipse, I feel like this is almost from now until February of 2027, when our final eclipse on the Pisces Virgo axis will happen with the full moon in Virgo. It feels like this next 6 months is going to be when the fog starts to clear out. And I was almost tempted to say like, oh, it's happening now. But I want to be careful with saying that because I feel like it's not all clearing out like in a heartbeat. It's like a gradual process of you see this next step and then it becomes a little more visible. And then you like, it's kind of like when you're driving in fog and you're driving for a while and then like slowly it starts to become more visible and then you're like out of it, right? So it's going to take a little time right now to get our bearings, but you do have an entirely new disposition. I heard you have something entirely new to really sink into. And what's funny about it is that people, or even yourself, could be looking at your life from the outside in and be like, oh, like nothing really that major is changing with them. Like, you know, it's kind of the same old, like, it's not a very like in your face kind of energy right now. And I think that might feel a little bit weird because we have been waiting for a long time and there is a lot of this Leo standout creative energy in the air. So maybe there's a part of us that is craving that. It's not that we can't show out and we can't, you know, in fact, I think the energy right now is encouraging us to speak up and to use our voices and to keep going with that creativity. But it just feels like this is going to step by step lead you to this big breakthrough moment that I feel like for a lot of you guys might be coming in the winter or the springtime of next year. It doesn't mean that you won't have this like success now, but I feel like now is just the beginning. I just keep getting that. Okay. I wanted to talk to you guys about my friend's book. This is called Exit Plan, Mapping a Way Out of the Youth Mental Health Crisis by Dr. Kathleen McKenzie. She's one of my dear friends and has been a friend of our family for a long time. And she talks about the tipping point in this book. So if you're interested in youth, technology, and just helping these kids and just society in general with these phones, definitely check it out. But what I loved about the book that I wanted to talk about with you guys today is that she talks about the tipping point and how there's two ways that we could see this tipping point. We could see it as a negative thing of like, okay, like so much has happened in society that we've already gone over the edge in terms of how detrimental these technological tools are. And we haven't really fully like embraced that, or like not just embraced it, but like done something about it. But then her other point is that with the tipping point is that if we do enough reform in society with policy change and also just educating people on things like, hey, if you just stick your kid in front of an iPad for hours for a day to keep them quiet and out of trouble, like you're actually putting them into a worse situation, and we start really advocating for these things, then it can tip things in the other direction. So I feel like I had to share this part of the book with you guys because maybe some of you are interested in checking it out, but also maybe it relates to something you're going through in your life right now where you almost feel these two competing forces of like, it could go either way. And I really feel like with Pisces energy, it's duplicitous, similar to Gemini. It's a bit of this and that are true. And it's also this like nothing is set in stone kind of energy. If you guys have the Moonology deck, then you know what I'm saying. And it just feels like there's an excitement that brings, but there's also a bit of pressure that it brings on us, because we know that right now is such a fated time that the actions we take are really going to decipher what goes down these next 6 months. And it's not like a time that we can just kind of like, yes, we are surrendering to some things, but we can't just like be in the back seat and just let things happen either. And so that's why there's this kind of tension, I think, that's playing out a little bit of like, how do I maximize my free will to make the right choices that I need to make myself happy and to feel fulfilled and to live out my mission and purpose, but also what are the areas in which I need to not be so controlling or prescriptive of. Because in those areas, you might be thinking things should look a certain way, and then it strips it of some of the potential of what it could be. And I think that comes from a survival paradigm of the past, of like, I had to know what was what so that I didn't lose track of things and I didn't lose myself. But I heard you've already lost it. So, and that's meant to be a joke, but like you've already been going through such unraveling these past few months that I feel like you've arrived at this place where you're like, your energy field has truly been cleared. It's like the hard drive has been wiped. And there's almost this temptation to then go and like load it back with all of this other stuff that in the past maybe would have felt like, okay, this is good. This is responsibility. This is discipline. This is like filling my time with productivity. But I think what you're seeing is that you don't want to be productive in the same way that you were in the past. You don't want to be busy in the same way that you were in the past. It doesn't mean you want to sit around and do nothing. It just means that what you're working on, it can't be something that pulls you out of alignment, even if it's related to your mission. And that's a tricky part. There's a bit of a tricky energy here that I'm tapping into, where it's like, for example, this could be adjacent to my mission, right? Like, let's say, okay, this is something I'm going through personally right now as a singer-songwriter. I'm really feeling like I'm outgrowing the identity of a local musician and doing these gigs versus doing actual shows that I want to do and how I want to portray my art, right? But sometimes it's so easy for me to adopt, to kind of be like, well, that's good as a long-term goal, but because I need to be practical, I'm going to keep trying to get these like quote unquote easier gigs that have a guarantee pay and I don't have to worry about tickets. And there's a little bit of a comfort zone thing that has been for me that I'm now breaking out of. And it feels really weird because I'm like, well, okay, if I want to go on tour and I want to go to these different places, I have to sell out venues. I have to sell tickets. I have to build an audience. So my shift in focus has been less about dealing with these local establishments and their politics and how they run things and being the good girl musician that shows up and that sings all those classic tunes that everyone knows and love and we all have a great time together. Like, it's not that that's not fun, but there's something about that I have personally outgrown. And I am actually going to be making another like podcast series through my music channel and platforms about different things I've learned in the music industry thus far and talk about the local stuff and the bigger stuff. So if you guys are interested in that, please go follow me. I am Tori Costa on YouTube and all other social platforms. But I share this because I want you guys to know that it's okay to feel like something is so close, but just not cutting it. And that's enough for you to know that it's okay to now pivot. It's okay to now take your energy back from that thing and pour it back into yourself. And maybe you don't know what the next thing looks like exactly, but you do know that this next step revolves you taking that piece of you and replanting it back in here, right? I'm getting a lot of heart chakra activation with this Leo energy, getting back into the things you love, getting back with the people that you love, maybe even meeting new people that bring out this new kind of love that you haven't felt before. And that's the beautiful thing about this, is that you've never experienced this level of self-love and healing, as well as love for God, your divine creator, the universe, other people. Like, you are vibing in a very high state of love. And so that's why I think there is a lot coming into clarity of like anything that kind of takes me out of my love, even if it involves doing something that I love, or it's adjacent to that. If it's taking me out of it even just a little bit, there's a change that's required. And instead of being like, oh, this is so stressful, what do I do? Let's get curious about what that change looks like. Because there's this magic in the air that we're coming upon with the full moon and Pisces eclipse. And it really feels like this energy that we can use to dream into reality. And so there's not these stark limitations and restrictions that we sometimes are conditioned to think that there are. And that's why when it comes to like political reform, revolution in society, all these things, it's like sometimes we feel like those things will never actually happen. But I feel like right now there's like a psychological deconditioning that's been happening for the past few months to prepare the collective for the fact that sí se puede, yes you can. I don't know why I felt the need to say that in Spanish, but like I just feel like this energy of like affirming that like the more that we come together and we share our dreams rather than like judging each other on our dreams, or like trying to be like, well, that's nice, but like think about the bills and like all that stuff. Like the more that we can like encourage each other in our faith, the more that like we're going to see that we have the power to change things in society. And like the astrologer Rick Levine always says, you have to act locally in order to act globally. And so that's the irony of this story, right? Because I'm telling you how I've outgrown the local scene and stuff. But it's not that you just like abandon your roots or abandon what's right in front of you to go chase some pie in the sky thing. Like that's not going to work either. So that's why this energy feels, again, it's like the tipping point. Where's this tipping point? But we're feeling like that kind of point that's leading us there. So I don't know if any of this is making a whole lot of sense, because it's these messages, like this eclipse season is so dense, and I'm trying my best to summarize it and organize it in a cohesive way. But it feels like every day there's like download after download after download, and my system is a little bit like fried from how much is coming in, but not in a bad way. It's I'm almost like more. I want to know more. But I also am like, okay, I need a little time to marinate in this and to like fully get it, what it means, you know? So I think I'm going to stop there.